Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. Yom Sheni leParshas Bamidbar. Shnas Tovshin Ein Zayin. Yom Mem Aleph La'omer. Getting closer to the big day of Kabbalah Satira. Shiv Tiferes Avigdor. In Parshas Bamidbar, it's a parsha that describes manifestations of Ahava of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Klal Yisroel. Talks about Nesinas HaTorah, talks about Limud HaTorah, talks about the Degolim, a special sign of Ahava. The Chazal tell us that the Golim, this ois of Chiba, was made known to Klal Yisroel at Har Sinai. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu came down with myriads of Melachim, Klal Yisroel beheld formations of Malachim around HaKadosh Baruch Hu, around the Shechina, and Klal Yisroel, it said, was so inspired by seeing this picture of the Malachim around HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Kesher between the Malachim and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that they desired for that too. Sometimes you have a Rosh Yeshiva or an Adam Gadol. Remember, as a child, every time you went to see Reb Moshe, Zechreinu Livracha, he always had a certain few people around him. And I always used to wonder, wow, I wonder if I can get in that huddle somehow. Is there any way for me to get that curve? I saw Rabbi Yankiv do people. I saw Rosh Yeshivas. I was young. I was very young then. I remember seeing that and thinking, wow, these guys must be tight. I went to Yisroel and I saw people next to Reb Nachim, people next to Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, people next to Reb Shach. You always had the people who the machers. They always pushed the people away in the front. They always went with Reb Shach next to him in the car. What does it take? What does it take to get what you call? Klal Yisroel saw these malachim around Hashem, and they were nis'ava. They created a great taiva to have that kesher with Hashem, that personal shaykhus with Hashem. And Hashem said you can have it. You all can have that kesher. The first thing you have to do is you have to want that kesher. Now the pasuk, when it describes Matan Torah, describes it in a very interesting fashion. The pasuk says, "Hevi'ani el beis hayoyin." Hashem says, "I brought you to the wine cellar, not to a mishta hayayin, Gabriel, but Hashem brought us to a beis hayayin." V'digloi olai ava, and Hashem poured love on us. Well, the first thing you have to know is that when you think of Matan Torah, how does Hashem want us to think of Matan Torah. Now, sometimes somebody gives you an experience, lahavdil, havdil elef havdalah. Somebody says, "Let me take you to an amusement park," and he tries to tell you, "How do I want you to view this?" And the guy says, "What's the amusement park?" It's a place of fun. It's a place of rides. The guy gives all his bubba mices, and he tells you how much fun it is. They strap you into metal or plastic chairs, and they scare the pants off you. They try at least. They try to take you real high and then shoot you down real low. They try to put you in things that scare you. Place where they scare kids. They don't tell you that. I'll tell you what, if you ever think about it, if you're standing to the side and you behold what goes on there, it's the most ludicrous shtus that ever happened. That people, they convince you to pay a fortune to let me scare your kishkis off and hope you don't die. Because there are fatalities there. There have always been fatalities. There's never been a park where there aren't fatalities. I remember going even to a small park in Pennsylvania, and I asked the guy in charge of the service fellow there, I said, "Tell me, when was the last fatality they had here?" Capella. I'm thinking the guy, I look at my wife, look at it, everybody's coming here, smiling, they think their mom is walking in Gan Eden, and it's a place of fatalities. I said, "Could you tell me on which ride they had the fatalities?" You said that there's a rafting ride. Well, they won't tell you. But you want to know what's good. This mishigas. But the shaila is you want to know how to look at it. People, you take somebody that you bring Eretz Yisrael who doesn't know about such things. You want to introduce him. Let me show you a place where we'll have fun. Yeah. So you have to know when HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us to Har Sinai. How did HaKadosh Baruch Hu want us to view it? That's very telling, because that's the emes of Cook. Hashem's not smoking us. Hashem's not trying to psych us out. Hashem is trying to, said, "I'm taking you to the Beis Hayai." Said, "I'm taking you in my inner Chadrei Chadorim and the Diglo Yolai Av." Now, what is special about a Beis Hayai? What is a Beis Hayai? So we're small-time potatoes. We're not kosher mentioned. We don't have no idea what a Beis Hayai is. What's the musik of a Beis Hayai? A Beis Hayai is a place. What does a Beis Hayai do? You know, there are two types of yayin. There's a guy who enjoys wines, but he doesn't drinks here this kind of wine, sometimes a dry wine, sometimes a semi-dry, sometimes a mix, sometimes petit sira, maybe he has Birchas David, which I enjoyed this year for the Seder. First time I drank a dry wine for the Seder. No? So you want to know what it is? Was it does? What's it, what? And then imagine, take a guy who appreciates wine, and you take him into a wine cellar with expensive wine. I had a friend, he's very close to him, he didn't live in the state, lived out of the state, I used to go visit him, and he had a wine cellar. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of wine. The guy wasn't a cellar even. If I remember correctly, it wasn't a basement. But he had a room. It was a dank part of his house, told me, and it had like bookcases, and it was pashut and wines, names, tags on each one of them, numbers. I mean, not somebody bought it where it comes from. I remember asking him, "How do you know these are emes? Did you make these wines?" He said, "No, I bought them." I said, "How do you know it's emes?" I said, "If I can get $100,000 for a bottle of wine, you think I couldn't get an old bottle to buy online somewhere, an old bottle from somebody who has in his garage at some garage sale, and put in wine and stop it up? I know you're not going to drink it tomorrow. You're going to save it for the next 20 years. By the time you figure it out, I'll be long gone." Why would they do that? The guy does a little studies. No, I don't. It's not done. I was just reading recently about it. This is done day and night and day. People have no idea. They're getting ripped off. But they're maminim. Maminim, b'nei maminim. They believe this. Shaitan. But there's such a thing as a wine. People drink wines. And then you take a guy to, and when a guy drinks wine, people who enjoy wine like to sit there, mishteh hayayin. So what's it going to tell you also such a thing? Of a mishteh of just yayin. I don't know of a mishteh of soda, but I know of a mishteh of yayin. They make coffee houses now. They try to emulate the mishteh hayayin, the concept of a coffee house. Put wine, they eat, drink wine, you're not going to suit it after. And people like to get buzzed. Like to get a little, and a guy that's shtickle drawn to this, that drinkt sich on good. So Shmuel Rozovsky, Yisroel Levracha, explained that a person who enjoys wines needs to drink and likes to drink until he gets buzzed. He enjoys drinking to the point that his das is not miyusheves alav. You don't feel good. You ever see a sheikets in a bar, they're not drinking little sips. They're drinking till they get mishtaker. That's what they want. And that's when he reaches, he's touching already he's reaching the heavens. And if he gets shikr gomer, then he's mamish. Leilu. That's what it is. But let's say a guy goes to a wine cellar. I goes to a wine cellar. Come into a wine cellar and the place is reeking of wine. See, in that place, you don't have to drink the wines. The place is so heady and the place is so drinking that it's pushed. The avira is intoxicating. You stay there long enough, you get shikr just from the without the drinking, even just from smelling it and inhaling it. Chazal telling us interesting thing. There's a concept called Yeino Shel Torah. Torah is compared to yayin. Torah is meant to be intoxicating. When a person, no one explained math in the terms of intoxication. No one described coffee in terms of intoxicating. Oh, they try to make coffee sound romantic. Guatemalan, beans from the Himalaya mountains. Guy traveled, especially trying to picture this SHLITA from Park, who traveled to Guatemala, and he climbed through the bush in the background, picking a few coffee beans, and he couldn't his little shepsek took the shepsek brought it home, and now he grinded it up and he's selling it in Park. You understand? Kilu, what's more, traveled the world to find this untainted beans, and they mamish make every day. But it's for coffee beans. That's what it is. A little less bitter, a little more bitter, but it's no one got intoxicated of a cup of coffee. But yayin is intoxication. I never heard of a coffeeholic. There's a people who get alcoholic. That's a very common thing in the world, in the history of the world. Shikorim were yayin and shikris was totally zebizeh. And Kosher people. A guy you go to Russia, that's shikris is mamish their lifetime hobby. That's what they do there. They tell me wherever you go, there should be how many people dying over there from liver disease. They killed themselves from the shikris. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells me, I want you to relate to Har Sinai like the Beis Hayai. Shmuel Rozovsky says that a person that walks into a Beis Medrash that's koching with learning, and the person doesn't feel a little heady, he doesn't feel a little excited, he's not drawn in. You know what it's a raya to? Either the guy himself, it's a pircha on the guy himself, he's a refuted mensch, he's a mufka, or it's a pircha on that base medrash. There's only one of the two. Because the koyach of Torah is intoxicating. Torah has that pull that it can draw a person in. Now, that is a very powerful piece of information. And we have to remind ourselves of this. You know why? Because the fact of the matter is, most of us are like little babies who were never, babies just don't drink wine. They don't know about getting shikr yet. Today you have a sickness that managed to creep into the yeshivas, that you have teenagers trying to get buzzed with beer or with whiskey, with other things. There's such a concept of people trying to get themselves shikr. But you have to know that the emes, it's a replacement. Torah is a beis hayayin. And that's something that we have to ask ourselves and to learn. Because if I know something is a beis hayayin, I've gone to a number of people in my life who've tried to introduce me to the wonders of yayin. To me, that's not anyone. I'm just a wonder that guy thinks it's a wonder. For me, wine doesn't hold any personal interest. But by people it does. And the Torah says, Hashem said, I want you to view our Sinai as Hevi'ani al Beis Hayayin. If you have never learned Torah and felt a little heady, felt a little intoxication, you have no shaykhs to Torah, you have no shaykhs to anything. You're mufrach. You have to know that. That means you're not talking about tshuva. You're fry in that area. You have not yet come to terms. You have never been exposed. You have not developed any shaykhs to Torah. And that's the goal. The goal has to be to have a shaykhs to Torah. Years ago, was once a fellow, professional, a tall fellow from South Africa. He came to the yeshiva and he was standing in the corner watching the Beis Medrash one morning, and the Beis Medrash was kachik. Everyone was learning, they were shaking, moving their hands. He tried sometimes to go outside and take a look and see, what do you see here? I read write-ups from secular Jews who got into Lakewood, New Jersey, from Goyim who've been in Lakewood, and they never saw anything of government figures, politicians. And they ask him, like, what was your impression? It's amazing how they see it. Like, never saw anything like it. I've been at Harvard, been in Yale, guy was writing, been all over. I never saw anything like it. Hundreds in one building, another building, and they're going out. It's not quiet studying. You go to a library of the biggest libraries, it's always, shh, don't raise your voice, because if you say one thing, everybody's going to be disturbed. And here everybody's screaming at the top of their lungs. No one is quiet, everybody's shaking their hands, shaking the stenders back and forth, standing up, sitting down, all like they have ADD or something, they're shuckling, all kind of movements, and everybody's learning. And that's conducive to learning. So this guy comes in, and he was watching and watching, and he says to me, Rabbi, what are they doing? Are they davening? I said, davening? No, they're davening. So why are they shuckling? Why all the movements? That's not how you study in the library. I looked at the guy, I said, let me explain you something. I said, if you walk into a mosh pit and you see people in the mosh pit who are flailing their hands, banging into each other, going nuts over the music. Or you go into a discotheque and you see the strobe lights going around and you see everybody's shrine, chayvakai, and the music is blaring, no one's standing straight, looks like everyone's tight to shikr on drugs. They probably are, but I'm saying, they look like it. Imagine I told if a guy would come in and say, why aren't these people standing still? What's wrong with them? What would you know? What would you automatically know, Gavi? Somebody asked you that question.
He has no idea what this is supposed to be.
No. even if you had no idea and you walked in, you'd have to be dumber than dumb not to get it. You know what you'd know? The guy was deaf, tone deaf, legally deaf. I turned to this fellow and I said, your hearing aid batteries must have died. I said, don't you hear the song? He said, what are you talking about? I said, they're singing. I said, do you know that there's a mitzvah to write the Torah? You know how the Torah gives us this mitzvah, the directive? Kis v'lachem es hashira hazos. We'll let Shmayo sing it for us afterwards. Kis v'lachem es hashira hazos. Write for me this song. I said, Torah is a song. In a mosh pit, they may have bad taste of music. In a discotheque, they may have a bad taste of music. But it's music. And when you're listening to music, that's natural. A guy, a monkey dances when he hears music. Everybody dances when you hear music. That's the Matthias. We're built to respond to music by hand movements, feet movements, face movements, head movements. The wilder the music, the wilder the person. I said, this person, these people here are singing. That's why they're moving their hand. He said, the only pella is they're not all standing up and jumping. I said, there used to be when people studied Torah, they only studied standing up. You couldn't study sitting down. It's a landschaft. You sat down and learned. How do you sit down and learn? In a dance hall, do they sit down and dance? No. Only if they have Rahman al-Islam, some kind of condition where they're paralyzed from the hips down, then they sit and they move their hands like this. I said, today we're having a mice and paralysis, and today we're all sick people, so we sit down. But the mice is, but you have to hear that. That's what a Beis Hayai is. Now, in order for a person, when you know that, you know what it tells me? If I would go to a place and I would see people having like a blast, no, I'd like to get to try this. I mean, it looks like it's happening here. It looks like a happening place. So I explained to this fellow, I said, you don't understand, you're tone deaf. I said, the heartstrings of a Jew. I said, if you ever picked up a guitar in your life, you try to strum on the music and it's coming out, it doesn't come out the way it's supposed to, you know what you know? And you got to turn the knobs. You got to tighten the, you got to tune it. You got to tune it a little more, a little less. You got to line them up. But if you line them up, that's the musical place. Every time a person sits down, he has to tell himself and remind himself, I am now going and I'm getting involved in a Beis Hayai, that's what I'm doing. And when I get involved in a Beis Hayai, and you have to understand that this is how you do it. Reb Gifter was a Rebbe that had stories upon stories about this subject. He spoke about when he came back from Europe, and throughout his days in his yeshiva, he had so many interesting stories about how the Pashat, the Yidden over there were electrified by, he used to say over a story, since it's Erev Shavuos, that one Shavuos, after a full night of learning, he went with his chaver to go for a Yom Tiv Dika Spatzir, a Yom Tiv Dika walk. No, to get a little air. They were walking in tells, and suddenly they met up with a Balabos. Balabos' name was Rebel Yechayim. What was his job? Given a shtof kremer. He was a salesman of cloth. That's a given job. He was a cloth salesman. Rebel Yechayim sees these two Bochrim walking, Shavuos in the morning, nach a ganze Nacht, and he says to them, Ich verstehe nicht. Ich verstehe nicht. Hang the shoes. He was in shock. What are you doing? You walk in the street at Shavuos today. So they told him that, he said, so to us, the only place to be is by a stender. That's what it's always the Shvuas. About Moses. No? So they told him, we learned the whole night, Baruch Hashem, Tiferes. And now we went out for a short walk to get a little ear, luft. Einig Yontif. He said, Einig Yontif. He says to them, Hast du amol gehört von a Schicker, wo sagt, ich hab getrunken genug Wein? You ever heard of a Schicker that's by a Mishnah Yayin with good bottles? And some bottles are unopened. You ever see him walk out, take a spazier? But trink weiter, he says. His house is shaykh. So Gevula, he said, I learned enough. But that's not a shikr, he says. He made a nerd declaration, Rabbi Gifter. He said it's over, he says. He said, the more you learn, the more thirsty a person becomes to learn Torah. If you learn Torah and you get bored, you know what it means? You're not learning Torah. Does it mean you're stupid? Could be. But you know what your stupidity is? Your stupidity is not that you don't have a Geshmak in the learning. Your stupidity is that this learning is such a Geshmak azach and you don't learn how to make it Geshmak for yourself. It doesn't bother me if a person doesn't learn Torah. What bothers me if a person taka doesn't think, he never tasted a Geshmak in Torah, then he's a behemoth nish kemensh. That person has no musik, no concept that Torah is a Geshmak azach. You can have a guy who says, no, I'm not in the mood to become shikra. Yeah, I like wine, I do enjoy wine, but okay, not that. But a person who doesn't attempt, he says, it's not my type, I don't have an intellectual head, it's a little difficult for me, I don't like this, it's not my style. Well, that's for sure. That's for a cow. There's no such thing. So we can't say, and this was about Labayas and tells about Labayas. The Chavetz Chaim used to say over a story about Reb Chaim Briska's Rebbe. Chaim Briska had a Rebbe. They called him Reb David the Blinder, Reb David the blind one. He was blind. He was from Slutsky, and he was during the era of the Cantonists. And they used to have kids, take away from their families for a long time. The main time they used to bother is in the beginning of the winter. No, so they used to hide for a few weeks in cellars, and the Rabbeim would go into the cellars and learn with the kids privately. The kids never could show up. Show their faces. One time, if David Blinder was learning with a bunch of kids in a basement, and somebody thinked and said, this kid's learning, and this guy comes down, a policeman comes down, and he sees the kids, and he was mamish teaching Torah, David Blinder, and the SHLITA, the policeman, chapped on one of the kids, and he tried to schlep him outside, and all of a sudden, David went and gave the guy a smack in his face. The guy was shocked. He dropped the kid and left. Now, a guy who's working for the Tsar's army, this is not like Obama's army, not even like Donald Trump's army. This is a serious crime of the highest nature. And it was with great difficulty that after the story, the Beis Halevi, Chaim's father asked him, he said, David Zuckman, how did you have a chutzpah to smack an officer of the Tsar's army? You smacked him in the face. What is your shot? He said, Gleit me, Rebbe. He said, believe me, Rebbe. He said, I didn't do this with kavanah. I'm not meshugana. She said, so what happened then? He said, I'll tell you, he says, we were holding in the middle of explaining a Tiferes. Suddenly a goy comes rein, and the goy chaps a kid, and I'm a minute explaining the chut, and he's taking the kid outside. Du hältst Rebbe, du verstehst. I was in the middle of explaining the Tiferes. He came and he stared us in the middle of the Tiferes. How can I not give him a flask? He didn't have that. He said, I wasn't doing this to the Tsar's army to save the candidates from the kids. No. The Chavetz Chaim used to say over this Maisa with great hisrakshus, with great hispilus. By him was no such thing. Middle Tiferes, you don't take the Kiruim that's explaining the Tiferes. Not the kind of person you have to be for that. It's nerdy kazaf. Now a person has to understand, if he's not getting that, he has to say something is missing. He has to know he's never touched, he's never got in contact with the Beis Hayayin. He never has shaykhis to Har Sinai. He never was toyim the time of Har Sinai. You want to be a shanu pirish, doesn't bother me so much. You learn Torah and you enjoy Torah, you know Geshmak. Well, okay, so your Yisroel got you. But a guy who never drove himself to the point where he was toying this time, it's gefährlich. Guy walks into Rav Shach once. A guy was close to Rav Shach. He says to Rav Shach, "No." Shach says, "Did you start psachim yet?" They were learning psachim next man in the yeshiva. So Rav Shach asked him, "Did you start psachim yet?" He said, "No." You know? He said, "I started psachim." I said, "I learn psachim. Ich ess psachim. I eat psachim. I drink psachim. I walk psachim. I daven psachim. I talk to people in psachim. Ich ess psachim. Ich halt mit nekam Pesach. Only middle of Pesach. I mean, he never said." That was Rav Shach. He had no idea. No kind of koyach that is. But Rebbe told me a story that once in the middle of the night, Mr. he didn't know day or night. Once in the middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning, Mr. Rav came up with a shtickle Torah. He told Rebbe to go to Rav Shach's house and tell him to come. I have a teretz. You're not going to get to at 2 in the morning. It's not shaykh. You can't do it. 3 in the morning. So Mr. Rav said, Rav Shach schlaft nicht. He said, it can't be. I know Rav Shach. He said, he's not going to sleep without having a pshat. He's not going to sleep. So he went to his house, knocked the door open right away. He says, the Mr. Rav has a teretz. He came running. Does geschlafen? He said, no, I couldn't sleep. He said, that's it. I told you. I can't. He couldn't sleep. That was Rav Shach. Once for days, he was walking around and there was a Yid of David Zeritzky, who was his neighbor. He came to the Rebbe and said, Rebbe, what's tutzach? Your blazer. He was much younger, and the kid was younger. He said, he was a teenager. He said, what's tutzach in the blazer? He says, is there anything I can do for him? He looks like he's lost. He said, he is. He said, I wish you could help him. He said, what's the problem? He said, it versteht nicht der Rambam in Hilchos Mila. And he has no yishuv, hadas. And he's pushing going around, es nicht, schlaft nicht, nothing. So he looks disheveled. He looks like he's lost. You do me a teva, help, give him a b'sl yishuv hadas, help with the Rambam, and then he'll go right back to me, the same old person. It's just what it is. And people like that. But when I see that, when you hear that, know what I say? At least I want to touch that. I want to get my tongue on that stuff. I want to touch it. Now the question is, how do you get there? How do you get there? So the first thing you have to hear yourself over and over. You have to hear that everybody's like this. This is how it was. 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 Give to yourself another nerdik story with the Zaydev Rabbi Mitzchak Bloch. Shem Yimkin Damai tells the Rav. He used to take a walk with the tells the Rav. He said a daily walk. The walk was 20 minutes. Started every day 2:30, 20 minutes. The Tanai was Megifta couldn't talk, couldn't say anything. But if the Rashiva said something to him, he could respond. But he wasn't allowed to say anything. He took this walk. One day, Rabbi Mitzchak tells the Rav, turns to Ramotl and he says, Jetzt mir reingefallen in my cup. Jetzt just entered my head a thought that when I'm going to come to Eilam Emes, I'm not going to get any schar for my limud. Because I have such hana, unimaginable, unestimable hana from learning Torah. They learned Durham in Yeshiva, then he said, I'm such hana from the Durham, by me it's bar, I'm not getting any schar for the Durham. Not getting any schar for the Durham. And he mentioned, when I learned the Pirish Haran, when I learned the Rans and the Durham is the main thing, no Rashis, the Rans. He said, that's why I know. The Gifter said, I answered him. Yeah, I was allowed to answer. I said, Efsher, for that alone, mivet the geb the schar. Maybe for that alone, you only get the schar. Yeah. And only somebody, Taka, learns Torah with azam and unestimable hana, you got to that level already? That means you made it. And for that, get schar. No. So Rosh Yeshiva said, and he said, Efshe does his gufa the lishma. Does his learn the lishma. Rosh Yeshiva smiled for the critique that the Talmud gave him, and then he was quiet. Years later, or days later, I don't know, a while later, Gifter found the shtickle Torah in a pirish of Rabbi Avram Minahar. Rabbi Avram Minahar writes this in Durham. He writes in Durham Daf Mem Chesam and Aleph, he writes that the ikar schar for learning Torah is when you learn Torah with Hana. That is the mitzvah of learning Torah. Ikar hatzivui is to picture the emes ule his aneg. I remember him saying it over from this seat. I remember him shrine to the walls shook here. He would say it in this room. I heard it from him in the Spanish. Ikar. He used to say. He used to speak each word, articulate each word. He said, "Ikar hatzivui kidei litzayer hoemes ule his aneg." He said, Vile Hanois, and you should have pleasure. L'sameach levovoi v'sichloi, with the Tiferes Hashem. B'kudei Hashem Yesharim, v'samchi leiv. Neichedik. This was like his, till it came out. If a guy woke out to tell the sheep, didn't know that Roman Ahor in his pocket, the guy was mufka from Telus. Boys, we have to get there. Everyone has to aspire to get there. I don't care if you're young. I don't care if you're old. I don't care if you're dumb or you think you're dumb. I don't care. If you don't get there, life is passing you by. The problem is most people don't know how to get there. Now I'm going to tell you how to get there. I want to ask my Rebbe this question. Is there an eitzah of how to get a Geshmak? And I've asked this question to many people and I've culled a few answers. The first basic thing you must do to get a Geshmak is to know what you don't know clearly. Rebbe said, take a piece of paper every single time you learn and write down on a piece of paper. You learn the Gemara, question on the first line, say, question. Write the question down clear and concise. That's somebody comes and asks you, do you have any question? Doesn't have to be a kasha. Doesn't have to be a kusher kivega. You have a question. A she'ela, not just a stupid question. Why? That's your question. Then just put your head under the water again. Instead, but you have to ask yourself a question. What is the pshat? Don't understand this point. Don't go through the Gemara like that. Then go through the Rashi. Do the same thing. Then start the Gemara over again. Do it again. By the second time, you'll already have answers. And every time you'll do this over, you're going to get more answers. And that's going to give you a sense of accomplishment and a sense of Geshmak. If you learn a Gemara, I'm telling you this, and you could say over the Gemara, the Shakla V'Tarya, what was the first step? What was the second step? What was the third step? You understand, what was the Gemara's kasha on the din? What was the din? Get it straight. What din we talking about? I don't know. Baba Basher, no? What's the din? Get the din. Get the Gemara's question. Get the Gemara's teretz. Get what Rashi says. I don't care if you don't know what Rashi is coming to answer. But does the question even bother you? What is this Rashi coming to answer? That's how you're going to get a Geshmak. Every night, Seder Chayim, you should learn this fashion. You'll be smoking. This is what you'll be doing. Not your vape cigarettes. You'll be smoking in learning. You know why? Because you'll have a question. If somebody will ask you a question, Avigdor, what don't you know? You won't just say, da, nothing. That's not the answer. That's the wrong answer. You'll say, I don't know. In this question, somebody will ask you, do you know what the question is on? No. That means you don't know zilch. You got to know what the question is on. What don't you understand with that question? The Gemara brings a raya. You want to know what is the Gemara bringing a raya to? Just an orderly, methodical, simple comprehension. That will be the beginning of, let's say you take a shtickle type. Or Yeshiva gave me an idea, an eitzah, that if you want to have a good time, bein hazmanim, learn some briskeros. I had a blast. I'll be honest, I used to come to bein hazmanim, I would get bored. I'm not sure what to learn. Chazara, Gemara says Kosher, it's not easy, Chazara. So I chaz a little bit, but I wanted to have something that was going to keep me pumped. To start the new Masechta, I was going to do that next month. I didn't know what to do. She gave me an eitzah to learn briskeros. And I could learn something like one briskerov for what you call, for a whole Ben's month. I knew what I didn't know. I knew what I didn't understand. I would write it over in my own words. Half the time in the beginning, I got it all wrong. But I thought I was trying to understand it. It was still Geshmak. And then when I got it, it's a different story. Different story. Instead of just vegging, doing nothing. You don't even have to know from life. Enjoy life. That's what it is. Enjoy the Beis Hayayin. Hashem took us to Beis Hayayin. You have to aspire. I want to see tonight say to every one of you, sit down. Come on time first. Don't show up here in the middle for 15 minutes to learn and go back for your coffees and for your teas. Come early, sit down with a piece of paper and try this with your Gemara. Just write yourself this question, that question, next question. Your time will fly. You won't have enough time. And you'll feel accomplished. Now, especially if you had a question, and at the end of the Seder, you actually thought of an answer. But the main thing is you gotta be kind of something. When I see a young man who on Shabbos won't say a chabura, you know what I know? He's a cow. That's what he's, a cow. He's not a young man. You know why? You don't want to have a Geshmak? That's a Geshmak. Getting a shtickle klor. You know what kind of Geshmak that is to get one thing clear and be able to say over something clear? Klor. The Gemara says this. We had a kasha. You know what the problem is? You may have to strain your brain for 5 minutes to actually remind yourself what's the question and then what's the answer. And you might have to actually say, how does the question get answered and how does the question get started? You'll enjoy learning. And why don't you do that to yourself? What's wrong with you? Have a chamanis. Do that. Taste a shtickle. Okay, so you're not a shikr. At least enjoy the wine. Let's enjoy the Beis Hayayin. Hashem said, I took you here, b'digloy aliava. I gave you some ava. You're not your Shach. You're not the Briskerov. You're not your Moshe Schulzinger. Not the Mishpul Yankiv. But happens to say to somebody, I enjoy it. I remembered when I was struggling with this Nakuda, and when I didn't enjoy it at all, I remember the exact kufa of my life. How old I was and what I was, and I really thought that I wasn't cut out for it. And it took me a long time to make the breakthrough. I couldn't get it, didn't know how to take something apart clearly. I think you got to make up chidushim. You got to look at a Gemara and sit back and look at the sky and come up with baba mices and come up with nonsense. And you have to eat a hot dog and a hamburger, get a little indigestion, then came a chiddush. That's not what this garnish. Just get something clear. You'll enjoy yourself. You'll have a clear enjoyment, Gabriel. You'll be flying. Who doesn't want to be flying? Baruch Hu should help us come to Shavuos and enjoy the Torah a little, taste the Torah. At least you'll understand. Yeah, I understand what they're doing all day long. I understand why a person, because it's a Moshe. The emes is it's a koyach of Torah it's a Moshe. Person who thinks about the Seder and he gets overwhelmed. Oh no, I have to learn for the next 2 hours. What's going to be my life? You're not giving yourself a chance to enjoy yourself. Learn the enjoyment. Start it this afternoon. When you learn this afternoon, and do it, and you'll feel tremendous tam and hana of your learning.